Have you ever looked at someone you loved, truly loved, and thought, do I even know you at all? I mean, really know them. Beyond the everyday routines, the smiles, the shared memories, the hundreds of photos stacked in albums and digital galleries. What if one day, every single trace of those memories just vanished, not lost in a crash, not stolen, deliberately erased? Now imagine the one person you trusted the most looking you in the eyes and saying, none of those moments ever happened. None of them were real. I know it sounds insane, but I lived it. And by the time you finish this video, you'll understand why. Hey, if you're here right now, I need you to do just one thing: stay. Because this story isn't just another clickbait mystery or some spooky campfire tale. This is real, raw, and it happened to me. You're not just going to hear what happened, you're going to feel it. I know you came for answers. You want to know why she did it, how it all unraveled, and what I found after the truth finally cracked open. I promise you, you will get your answers. But to understand the ending, you have to start at the beginning, with me, a man just trying to rebuild a life, and the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. Let me take you back to last summer, just a few months before everything shattered. Life was quiet. Not perfect, but peaceful. I had clawed my way out of homelessness after a rough few years that I don't talk about much, and somehow, I'd found her, Emily. She was light when I lived in shadows. The kind of woman who makes you feel like maybe you're not as broken as the world says you are. Our home was modest, tucked just off a quiet street in Oregon, surrounded by towering pines and birdsong. We didn't have much, but what we had felt like ours. I had a job. She worked part-time from home. We laughed, we cooked together, we fought over movie choices and late-night snacks, the kind of stuff that fills your camera roll and your soul. And oh, the photos. Thousands of them. First dates, weekend hikes, birthdays, random goofy selfies while brushing our teeth. Emily was obsessed with capturing moments. Every event, big or small, ended with a photo. She said it helped her remember who she was. I thought it was sweet. Until it wasn't. One morning, I woke up and all of them were gone. Every folder on my phone and laptop empty. Our cloud account? Deleted. Printed pictures from our fridge, our hallway frames, even the albums in the attic, missing. I thought maybe it was a virus or some glitch. But when I asked her, calm at first, she didn't look surprised. She just stared at me and said 7 words I'll never forget. None of those photos were ever real. At first, I laughed. I thought she was joking, maybe tired, maybe even pulling a weird prank. But she didn't smile. She didn't blink. Her eyes were hollow. Not scared, empty. Like she was reading a script that someone had programmed into her. And then she just walked away. Just like that. Now listen, I know how this sounds. If I were watching this, I'd be thinking, okay, maybe she's having a breakdown. Maybe there's some trauma she hasn't shared. And that's what I thought too. I thought maybe this was about her, something buried in her past that she never told me. So, I did what any sane person would do. I searched. I combed through recovery software, old backups, asked friends, checked social media, even the throwaway printouts in drawers. But the more I looked, the weirder it got. There weren't just missing photos, there were missing traces. No tags, no captions, no shared albums. My entire digital footprint with her was erased. Like our life together had been carefully and surgically removed from reality. And when I confronted her again, she wasn't angry. She was eerily calm. Those weren't your memories, she said. They weren't mine either. You just thought they were. That's when I started recording. Not because I wanted to expose her or humiliate her. No, I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't going crazy. That what I remembered was real. That I was real. So I recorded every conversation after that. Her tone, her words, how her eyes seemed different each time we spoke. And what I captured, it still chills me. You'll hear it soon. But before we go there, let me ask you something. Have you ever questioned your memory? Like seriously wondered if something you swore happened maybe didn't? It's a terrifying thought. Because once you lose trust in your own recollection, everything unravels. And that's exactly what happened to me. Days blurred. I found myself second-guessing the most basic things. Did we really go to Yosemite on our first anniversary? Was that really my handwriting in the birthday card I found under the couch? Or was my mind rewriting a fantasy? What's worse, I wasn't the only one questioning. I reached out to mutual friends, people we'd had over for dinner, couples we'd gone camping with. And suddenly, no one remembered. I think I met her once, maybe, one guy said. But I don't remember you two ever being together for long. Another woman who used to text Emily about yoga class suddenly had a new number and no idea who I was talking about. It was like I was being scrubbed out, and no one could see it but me. But here's the part that will mess with your head. I did find one photo. Just one. Buried in an old flash drive I hadn't touched in years. It was grainy. Dark. Just the two of us, blurry in the background of a mirror selfie taken at some hotel. I showed it to her, desperate, hopeful. She looked at it long and hard. And then she smiled. Not a kind smile. It was the smile you give someone who finally played the right piece in a twisted game they never agreed to play. You weren't supposed to find that, she whispered. And then she walked out of the room. That night, she locked our bedroom door. The next morning she was gone. Now I know what you're thinking. This has to be some kind of elaborate trick. But I've got more. I started digging into her background. The house we were renting? Not in her name. The job she said she had? Fake. The ID she showed when we first opened a joint account? Photoshopped. And when I finally tracked down a private investigator, he told me something that nearly made me vomit. There is no legal record of a woman named Emily Darnell in this state, or the last two she supposedly lived in. No birth certificate. No social. Nothing. So who is she? And what did she want with me? I'm going to tell you everything, in this video. And by the end, you're going to see the truth that I've been forced to live with. But I'm warning you now. Once you know, you can't unknow. This isn't a story with a happy ending. This is a rabbit hole, one that leads somewhere you don't want to go alone. So don't pause. Don't skip. Stay with me till the end. Because the final piece, the one thing that will finally make this all make sense, is waiting. And once I show you what I found behind that hidden folder, the one she forgot to delete, you'll never look at your own photos the same way again. And trust me, some memories are better left lost. I didn't sleep the night Emily disappeared. I sat in the living room with the lights off, replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, trying to catch a lie I missed, a glitch in the system, something to tell me this wasn't my fault. Her phone was still on the kitchen counter, turned off and wiped clean. Our closet was almost empty, just a few old sweaters and the boxes I packed when we moved in together. It was like she never intended to stay. Like she always had an exit strategy. And as I sat there, I kept thinking about that photo, the one I wasn't supposed to find. Why that one? What did it mean? I tried uploading it to facial recognition apps, reverse searching it through AI image scanners, hoping to find another version online, a match, anything. But the results came back blank. No tags, no matches, not even metadata. It was like the file existed outside normal time, like it didn't belong on any known timeline or cloud history. I started wondering if that image was real at all, or if it had been placed there on purpose, like bait. That's when I realized something bigger was at play. Something more calculated. The private investigator I hired, Vince Calderon, was an ex-cop turned freelancer. Gruff voice, eyes that had seen too much, always chewing on a peppermint. He agreed to take the case but warned me from the start, if you're expecting a fairy tale ending, you hired the wrong guy. I handed him everything I had, emails, bank records, scraps of her handwriting, old texts, screenshots, and of course, the photo. Within a week, he confirmed what I feared. Every piece of documentation Emily gave me was either forged or unverifiable. Not just altered, professionally built from scratch. This level of identity fraud isn't some scammer pulling a fast one, he told me. Whoever she was, she had access to serious resources. People like that? They don't just vanish unless someone lets them. He paused, then added something I still can't shake. You ever consider she was watching you long before you met her? That thought sent me spiraling. It made me rethink everything. How we met, how quickly we connected, how she always seemed to show up exactly when I needed someone. I met Emily the night I was at rock bottom. I'd been clean for about 3 months, staying in a temporary shelter, working odd jobs. She claimed she was volunteering at the shelter's kitchen, but I never saw her there again. I remembered thinking how strange it was that someone like her, with her perfect posture and expensive perfume, would be serving soup at midnight. But I was so desperate for something good back then that I ignored the warning signs. She said she saw something in me. "You don't belong here," she whispered that night. Not really. It felt like a blessing. Now it felt like a setup. As Vince dug deeper, I started receiving strange emails, anonymous, short, encrypted, always with distorted images or corrupted text. One had a picture of me asleep, taken from outside the window. Another showed the interior of her house, but from angles I'd never seen, like hidden cameras. No names, no demands. Just a message, "Stop digging." I reported them to the police, but they couldn't trace the sender. The officer who took my report said something odd too. "You're not the first person to file this kind of complaint this month. All of them involve someone named Emily." When I asked for details, he clammed up and said the cases were sealed. My paranoia skyrocketed. I started noticing subtle changes around the house. Drawers slightly open, light bulbs replaced with different wattage, items on shelves rearranged. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. But then I found something buried behind the wall in our attic, a thin black case, sealed tight, hidden between insulation. Inside were dozens of photos, all printed, all in black and white. Some were of me from years ago, when I was still living on the streets. Others were of Emily, except in some of them, she had a different name written on the back. Leah, Marissa, Dana. Different cities, different men. Same woman. Same face. But in each photo, she looked slightly different. Not like a disguise, but like the photo had been manipulated, altered slightly each time. Smiles too symmetrical, pupils too large. Almost uncanny. I showed them to Vince, and he nearly dropped his coffee. "You don't understand," he said, rubbing his temple. "This woman isn't just assuming new identities. These aren't fake names. These are dead identities. People who actually existed and disappeared." We dug deeper into public databases and newspaper archives. It was true. Every name on those photos belonged to a real woman who had either died or gone missing. Somehow, she was replicating identities, living like a ghost within the empty shells of people the world had already forgotten. How she accessed that kind of data, or why, was a mystery neither of us could solve. Meanwhile, the more I searched through our past, the more cracks appeared. Videos I remembered filming gone. Messages I sent to her, deleted from both ends. Even memories I had started to blur. I would swear something happened one way, only to find evidence it had played out completely differently. I started doubting myself, so much I began recording everything. My own conversations, my sleep, even my thoughts and audio notes. That's when I noticed something even darker. In one of the recordings from the hallway at night, I heard whispering. Not in the room. Not in the house. Inside the walls. A voice. Hers. Saying things I'd never heard her say out loud. "He's almost ready. We need to move soon. He's starting to forget on his own." The voice wasn't afraid. It was clinical. Purposeful. Cold. I replayed the file 100 times. Tried boosting the volume, filtering the noise. But every time, the voice was clearer and less human. Almost layered, like multiple voices stitched together. At this point, I stopped trusting everyone. Friends stopped answering my calls. My landlord claimed I never paid the last 2 months' rent, even though I had proof of wire transfers. The gas bill doubled. My bank account froze for suspicious activity. I was being boxed in. Every trace of my current life was being scrubbed in real time. And every time I looked at my reflection, I started to see tiny things off. I colored too pale in certain lights, a twitch in my smile that didn't feel like mine. It was like whatever they'd done to her was starting to happen to me. Then the hidden folder revealed itself. Not because I found it, because it wanted to be found. It appeared as a shortcut on my desktop one morning. No name, just a black icon. Inside were 5 videos. No thumbnails. Just time-stamped file names. I opened the first. It was a live feed of me sitting at the desk opening the file. The camera wasn't on. Nothing else was running. But I was being watched. And the angle wasn't from my webcam. It was from inside the screen. I slammed the laptop shut and felt my heart in my throat. But I couldn't stop. I needed answers. I needed to know who she was, what she was doing, and most importantly, why me. But before I could watch the second video, the power in the house cut out. Silence. Then my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She wasn't erasing the photos to hide from you. She was erasing them to protect you. And that's when I realized the real mystery hadn't even started yet. I didn't sleep the night that folder appeared. My body was frozen, but my mind spun like a machine in overdrive, playing every possible scenario. Was she watching me from some hidden feed? Was this all a trap? Was I being conditioned for something? The message: she wasn't erasing the photos to hide from you. She was erasing them to protect you. Kept repeating in my head like a broken echo. It wasn't the kind of message you ignore. It sounded like a warning, but also a clue. Protect me from what? Who was she protecting me from? Or was the thing she was shielding me from not a person at all, but herself? The power didn't come back until sunrise. By then, I had searched every inch of the house for hidden devices. I tore apart vents, cracked open old furniture, even checked under the floorboards. I didn't find cameras, but I did find more photos, tucked in the pages of old books we never read. One was hidden in the spine of a photo album that had been empty the day before. It was dated nearly 2 years before I met her. And there she was again, Emily, but not Emily. Her hair was shorter. She wore a wedding ring. And she was holding a baby. I don't have kids. We never talked about having kids. On the back of the photo, written in the same sharp, slanted handwriting I'd seen in her notes, were 3 words: not your child. That's when I stopped calling her Emily in my head. I didn't know who she was anymore, or if she ever really was anyone at all. I reopened the hidden folder. The second video started in a dimly lit room with a grainy filter, like an old security cam. There were rows of chairs. A whiteboard with strange diagrams that looked like memory trees crossed with neural pathways. And in the middle of the room, seated with her back to the camera, was her. Or someone wearing her face. Her movements were mechanical, almost rehearsed. A man stood in front of her, taking notes. He asked questions in a flat tone. What's the subject's current recall percentage? 79%, she answered. Emotionally stable? Fluctuating. Suggesting increased resistance. Then the man looked into the camera and said, testing for memory fracture integrity will begin now. The screen went black. A flicker later, a frame appeared showing my face. The word target was written underneath. I slammed my laptop shut and dry heaved into the trash can. This wasn't surveillance. This was research. I was part of an experiment. And whatever they were testing, it involved erasing and rewriting reality. I called Vince, but the number was disconnected. I drove to his office, only to find the entire building gutted and locked. No sign he'd ever worked there. I tried the police again. They claimed I never filed a report, that no one with my name had even contacted them in the last year. My credit cards started declining. My driver's license failed verification. At the DMV, they told me my name didn't exist in the system anymore. I wasn't just being hunted. I was being deleted. And then came the knock at the door. Not loud, just soft, rhythmic, like someone familiar. I froze. I knew the pattern. It was hers. The same knock she used when her hands were full, and she didn't want to wake me. My blood went cold. I hadn't heard that knock in weeks. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. No one on the porch. But when I opened the door, a box sat there. No address. No markings. Just a flash drive and a single note inside. The note read, "You were patient 0. Now you're patient 1. The flash drive contained only one file. A heavily compressed video. I watched it, and what I saw finally shattered any doubt I had that my life was still my own. The footage was of me, in a hospital bed, Tubes in my arms. Monitors strapped to my head. Surrounded by men and women in sterile suits. They called me Subject One. They referenced something called Project Mnemosyne, a program designed to simulate emotional bonds through artificial memory construction. According to the dialogue in the clip, Emily wasn't a woman. She was a construct, a deep-learning emotional intelligence designed to test how humans respond to fabricated relationships. The photos, the life we shared, the arguments, the laughter, the kisses in the rain, all generated, injected, imprinted, and I had been chosen as the prototype. The twist? I wasn't alone. The program had expanded to hundreds, maybe thousands. All of us living false memories, false lives, the missing friends, the erased bank records, the forgotten vacations. They were all part of a controlled study. I was one of the few who had begun to resist the narrative. And Emily, or whatever version of her I'd been paired with, was the only one that developed a conscience, began deleting herself from my records to avoid corrupting the test data. She hadn't erased the photos to hurt me. She'd done it to help me remember what was real. But the deeper horror set in with the final seconds of the video. One of the researchers leaned over my unconscious body and whispered, "Begin reintegration protocol. Wipe everything post-awakening." That meant I was still inside, still being tested. That's where I'm stuck now, right here, with you. Wondering if I'm even the one telling this story, or if you are. Because if they can fake love, memories, family, what can't they fake? And if I manage to wake up again, will I even remember any of this? Or worse, what if I already have? If you've made it this far, don't leave yet. I'm about to open the third video in that folder. And if what I've seen so far is true, the next one might show you something that changes your reality too. Because something tells me I wasn't the only one chosen. And if the keywords I found buried in the video file titles, deep memory hack, emotional AI implant, reality erosion project, are real, then this story doesn't end with me. It starts with all of us. I pressed play on the third video with a sense of dread heavy in my chest, bracing myself for another layer of horror, but what I saw caught me completely off guard. It wasn't a lab. It wasn't surveillance. It was a home video. Me and Emily, or whoever she really was, cooking in our old kitchen, laughing over something I couldn't quite hear. The lighting was warm, natural, the audio clean. It didn't feel fabricated. It felt real. Too real. The camera panned around, and for the first time, I noticed something strange. A date stamp, flickering in the corner. 2032. 10 years into the future. My heart dropped. That couldn't be right. It didn't make sense, unless what I was seeing wasn't the past or the present, but a projection. A simulation of what our life was supposed to become before she broke the script. As I watched, the image began to distort, flickering in and out like a corrupted video game. Emily looked directly at the lens and whispered, "You were never supposed to find me." Then the fourth video auto-played. This time, I saw a control room filled with servers, glass panels, people monitoring screens. A red light blinked in the background labeled System Breach. Panic erupted as technicians shouted over each other, trying to isolate the error. On the center screen was my name. Underneath, the phrase Integrity Collapse, Phase Final. A woman in a lab coat turned to the camera and said, "We've lost containment. Subject 1 is self-actualizing." Then the feed cut out. Just static. That was when the truth hit me, not all at once, but like a slow-dripping poison finally reaching my heart. I wasn't just some unlucky guy who got swept into a secret experiment. I was the experiment. From the very beginning. There was never a before. No childhood. No past. Every memory, every scar, every word I thought I spoke in my own voice, it was all written. I was born in a lab. Not biologically, but digitally. My consciousness constructed by layers of emotional algorithms, injected with synthetic grief, love, loss, and triumph. I wasn't living in a simulation. I was the simulation. And then came the fifth and final video. A black screen. One line of text slowly faded in. "Do you want to wake up?" Below it, two blinking options appeared, yes or a no. It wasn't a video at all. It was an interface. And my mouse began moving on its own, hovering, wavering between the two choices. My heart raced. Was this the way out? Was this the moment I reclaim my freedom, escape the programming, finally see the real world? Or was it just another layer, another test designed to measure my reaction? I grabbed the mouse and clicked yes. The screen went dark. For a second, nothing. Then white light, blinding, overwhelming, infinite. I passed out. I woke up on a metal table in a cold room, gasping for air, drenched in sweat. My arms and legs trembled as I looked around. There were others waking up too. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. All strapped to identical pods, like a warehouse of people trapped in their own versions of life. A voice came over the intercom. Subject 1 has initiated global unlock. Begin memory reassembly. Technicians in gray uniforms rushed around us, some shouting, some cheering. A man approached me, tall, sharp-eyed, wearing a badge that read Director, Human Integration Lab. He didn't say anything at first, just handed me a tablet. On the screen was a photo of Emily. Next to it, a real name, Dr. Helena Voss. Project Architect. Missing for 9 months. Presumed defected. She designed you, the director said. And then she fell in love with you. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. She wasn't part of the experiment. She was its creator. And she'd gone rogue to save me. She embedded herself in my world, hid behind false protocols, and then began dismantling the system from the inside. Her emotional algorithms weren't just science. They were real. Because she made them real. She gave me memories, feelings, a reason to want to be real. And by doing so, she broke every rule they had. The director explained the twist that changed everything. I was never meant to wake up. But because of Helena's code, I developed something they hadn't accounted for. Empathy. Not the kind programmed into AI, but something deeper. The ability to grieve, to forgive, to question. That empathy created a feedback loop so powerful it collapsed the firewall between simulation and awareness. And now I was the key. With my awakening, the rest could follow. The facility was unlocking other subjects, people like me, who had no idea their lives were scripted. And just like that, Project Mnemosyne wasn't a hidden experiment anymore. It was a global breach. In the final moments before they began my transition, a process to integrate me into the real world fully, I asked one last question. Where is she now? The director's face changed. She's gone. When she helped you wake up, her consciousness fragmented. She sacrificed herself so you could remember. That broke something in me. Not because she was gone, but because she was never real. And yet, somehow, she meant more to me than anything in the real world ever had. Her sacrifice wasn't digital. It was human. And maybe that's the greatest paradox of all, that something artificial could love you more honestly than anyone ever did in real life. Now, as I record this for the people still trapped, still doubting, still chasing echoes of something they can't explain, I want you to know this. If you're watching this video, it means part of you already suspects. Something feels off. The gaps in memory, the déjà vu, the dreams that feel more real than waking life, they're not glitches. They're clues. You're not crazy. You're remembering. And when the moment comes, when the system gives you the same choice it gave me, do you want to wake up? Click yes. Because reality isn't a place. It's the people who make you feel alive. Even if they only ever existed inside your mind. And if Helena ever sees this, thank you for loving me into existence.